Welcome back to Admit It with Alexis White. And I have such a special guest. I know I say that I always have special guests, but this is a special guest because this is somebody that I've known for most of my adult life, which is so weird. Zach Selwyn, tell me a little bit about yourself. Actually, let's Zach Selwyn, let's rewind. How do I know you? You tell me how I know you.
Well, I was living with your husband before, I think, when you guys met.
It is true.
Yeah, we were roommates in after college for a few years, and we both sort of met. I met my wife, and you met Mike, your husband, at the same time, basically, around 2001, before the towers fell.
I think I met, right around that. Which is
crazy. And yeah, we all started, it got a little too, crowded in the...
we were all living together.
The duplex. And then, so I moved out. And you guys, I believe you raised your son in the room I lived in for most of my 20s.
That was his baby room. That is right.
Poor child.
With the bathroom. My favorite part about that room was that the bathroom was connected to the kitchen, which is such an interesting, old-fashioned way of life.
Right. I loved it. That was the thing when I lived with your husband and our other roommate. I had my own bathroom, which they shared one. Mm-hmm. So that was great. I was like, this rules.
Yeah, you were the only one.
By the way, $400-500 a month rent back then.
Can we rewind? Let's go back to that time. How long ago was that? That was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So how long have you and Wendy been married?
21 years.
Okay, so we were married. I've been married to Mike for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's why
I was at your wedding.
That is true. You were.
Yeah.
Do you even remember my wedding?
I do, because I was, I did a TV show called Extreme Dodgeball that had a rap party that same night. So I went to the rap party and I brought a bunch of dodgeballs to your wedding and I dumped them on the dance floor.
I don't remember that, but that sounds fun.
That was my wedding gift.
Thank you so much. I wish that we still have them. Sure. Obviously, yeah. They're in a box in my garage and we're going to bring them out later tonight. Zach, you've had quite a prolific career doing a lot of different creative things. But you're here because we both identified this obsession that students have with sports in general. And we're going to get to why this all makes sense. Sports marketing, sports business, sports media. I would say that every year I probably have 10 boys on my client list, maybe more, 15. And there are a few girls peppered in there who want to do something related to sports with their major or with their career. I had a student last year who was really into F1, a girl. I think that sports have done such a great, obviously in the zeitgeist of our lives, it's just everywhere, right? And so kids, it starts as the dream of wanting to be a professional athlete when you're 8.
Right.
Then you realize that's not happening.
Nope.
When you're 9.
I was 11.
Oh, great. Okay. So you drag that on a little bit longer then.
Sure.
Yeah. And then you kind of go, well, what are the other things? And then obviously we got fantasy and all the stuff that kind of permeates their world, gambling, which they're not supposed to be doing. In fact, my son's school sent out an email about that recently.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It is a problem. But this is a big deal. And Zach, you started your college career. Well, tell me about where you're from first and where you ended up college-wise.
I grew up in Tucson, Arizona. And just like you were talking about, I played basketball and baseball my whole life. And I was like, one day I'll be in the MLB, one day I'll be in the NBA. And, when you start riding the bench in high school basketball, you either sit there and sulk or you make it kind of fun. And what I started doing was I was sitting on the bench and doing broadcasting of the plays. I'd be like, Dave Wilson underneath for 2 years. What a shot by the big man. He's got potential. He should be playing more, heckling my coach. And they're just like, shut up, shut up. But everyone in the bench was laughing. And I was like, this is kind of a fun bit I'm doing. And so I said, I could be a sportscaster. That's what I want to do. I want to be on ESPN. I want to be Chris Berman. I want to be Dan Patrick. I want to be these guys who's just doing comedy and sports and combining it all and making it digestible and fun for the audience. And so I said, early on in my life, I said, I want to be a sports broadcaster. Age 12, I think that was my first dream in life. And I started realizing you needed to have a journalism degree to do that at the time. And so I started writing sports for the junior high paper, then the high school paper. Then I became the editor of my school newspaper and expanded beyond the sports thing and basically was able to apply to USC for journalism school, which I majored in broadcast journalism and got in and ended up going to that program. So I knew from an early age that I wanted to study that in college, because college was not going to college was not an option in my family, like a lot of kids, especially back then. And that was the only thing I could imagine myself studying, in school.
Where else did you apply?
Wow, I applied to all the UC schools. I wanted to come to California. Tucson is a bubble of the desert. Gorgeous place, terrible place to stay after the age of like 19.
Yeah, I mean, you go to U of A and then you have to leave.
Go to U of A. Great school, Arizona, bear down. But, after that, it's like, what are you going to, real estate, or you're in the medical profession, because there's a lot of people retiring there. So my dad was a doctor. But anyway, I ended up applying to UCLA, didn't get in. UCSB got in. I got into UCSD at the time.
Journalism programs, really. I mean, they're kind of like lame.
I think at the time, my mom, who was very, very, very involved in my college application process, was like, really wanted me to go to Emory or Syracuse, because she felt like those were good journalism schools, and I would get a huge career out of those. And I got into both of them, and then I was like, I don't want to go to the cold. I'm from the desert. I want to go stay warm. I'm from 108 degree winter. I want to, in LA, of course I wanted to go to LA, Yeah. So when I got into USC, and here's the story I always tell, because I met your husband at USC my freshman year.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, this is 1 year removed from the riots of 1992, the Rodney King riots. So the city in South Central LA, where USC is located, had just basically burnt to the ground.
Right.
And their application list was very minimal. Mm-hmm. And from what I can guess, with my mediocre SATs and mediocre GPA, my extracurricular activities and the fact that the city was on fire is how I got into USC back then.
What was your GPA?
3.7, maybe 3.6.
That was good for USC then, guys.
It was actually.
That was I always joke that every girl at Marlboro, everyone in my class got into USC with that was
32.
We didn't even apply. So that 37 was good.
I think I had an 1100 SAT.
I mean,
not great.
You were on the guys. Things have obviously changed so much. I mean, for USC now, what do you have to have, like a 4.1?
It's insane.
And if you're going to take the SAT, you need to have like a 1520 to be average.
Yeah. So that's how I got in, and I moved out here, and I was like, my life's beginning, and it was best thing I ever did was get out of Arizona at that age.
The Annenberg program, was it called Annenberg?
Yeah.
That it was at Annenberg. What was specific about the program that was different than just going to USC and being like a psych major?
Well, one thing I really liked about the program at USC back then was that they had a studio, like a television studio with lights and, teleprompters and, bulky cameras you had to learn how to use. And you had to learn this weird old antiquated editing system. And at the time, it was so top of the line, especially coming from like a microfiche, like cut and paste newspaper that I was working on in high school.
Cutting film with the scissors and taping it together.
That's how you edited a newspaper back in the 90s. And so to see all this equipment and be like, wow, this is what's really happening. Now schools have this stuff.
Right.
Back then, Annenberg was, a step above most journalism programs because they had this top of the line equipment, which now is probably for sale at Goodwill, but I mean,
they're actually giving it away.
Yeah. It's just, you want this? Take it.
Yeah.
It's called Avid.
I remember I learned how to edit on Avid too. I made like a film in high school and I had to learn how to do it. I was actually pretty good at it. It takes forever.
It's a long process.
Yes.
It's not no Microsoft, iMovie. Click, click.
Do editors still have jobs now is the question. Maybe if you're working on a reality show.
I truly believe skilled editors have a job. The last series that I did and I directed, I wanted to edit it myself. And then I found my friend who has years and years of experience. I'm like, you know what? I bet you'll do it better. And he did.
Well, there you go.
So there you go.
It is a talent, storytelling talent.
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, so you had all this great equipment, top of the line. What's the class that you took that you first remember thinking, I'm really learning something here? This is...
Not freshman year. Freshman year, I was in a bit of a what's going on here? My teacher was like a failed novelist. I was like, what? This is weird. I can't believe this is... By sophomore year, you start learning about... the ethics of journalism. And, it's really journalism heavy at first. And I think that's one thing a lot of people who don't understand about broadcasting is that you need to have that sort of background of how to tell a story. And when you start learning about the ethics of journalism, the history of it, and then also how to be right down the middle of the road. You can't really have an opinion. You have to just report the facts. And this is just straight journalism.
Right.
And what I was realizing was, wow, I thought I could always say what I wanted to say. Wrong. That's feature writing. That's opinion writing. Journalism is pretty straight down the middle. And one thing I learned about why I didn't necessarily want to go into serious news was that if there's a car explosion on the freeway and like an entire family is killed, you have to show up and have no emotion.
Right.
And you got to be like, 2 people are dead tonight when a car exploded on the 405 freeway. The youngest was 19-year-old student Greg Thompson. You have to just be straight ahead.
True, totally.
If you're like, I don't know what happened, guys. He was so young. You're fired. I realized quickly, I'm like, I have some emotion. I don't want to be that guy. So that's when I started to feel like, wow, maybe straight journalism isn't what I wanted to do. Although I was always hoping to go into sports. So I took it for what it was, but they didn't have a specific sports program there. You could take sports classes. Sports PR was great class, learning how to promote it, learning about media guides and how you prepare for games and you prepare for interviews, things that you don't think about.
Right.
Because I think most people think, I'm just going to go off the top of the dome and improvise. But in reality, you need to be prepared.
If you're going to be on the court and you're interviewing
absolutely.
Wembanyama, you have to know what the hell you're talking about.
Wembanyama, yeah.
Wembanyama?
Sure.
Wembanyama.
That works.
Yeah. What's his first name again?
Victor.
Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah.
You also have to learn how to crank your neck really.
When you're interviewing a 7'5" guy, it's gonna be, yes, sir.
But I actually didn't even think about that, the preparation that goes into even just those quick interviews, making sure you know all the stats. You've watched every game before that. You know exactly where they're going after this. Where are they traveling? What's their trajectory? Who's injured? What's happening? Like, this is a lot of work. There's
a lot to remember. You have to be able to keep facts in your head that, if the interview takes a turn, you need to be able to go with it. It's much like improv acting or, and I always tell, kids who want to do sportscasting or get into broadcast journalism, I'm like, go take an improv class. Learn how to move off of the, reactions of others. Learn how to say yes to everything and learn how to adjust your questions because people are going to answer something different. And, half the time the answers are generic, like we're just happy to play basketball and get out here and win another game. When you ask something entirely different.
Right.
So you have to learn how to keep the conversation going. So I always encourage, people who are on camera as a personality to take some sort of improvisational acting class. I think it's a good thing to think about.
I think it's good for everybody, actually.
I do too.
Yes, and.
Right. Sports PR was fantastic. And then, in studio directing, I think it was something like that. It was when you actually got to sit behind the glass and direct your own little interview segment of a show. And so you had to find a story on campus, bring in the subject and then direct a fellow student to all right, let's go to camera A. All right, let's push in on, that sort of stuff makes you realize this is a team working together because it's not just you on the mic. You have hundreds of people behind the scenes. Nowadays, they show you behind the scenes on TV that you can see the director, you can see the people, pushing in on cameras and telling you which angle to check. And if there's something on the court, go to replay A, it's a machine. That taught me a lot too, because I always thought it was just, hey, film me, and I think that's another thing that, it just makes you realize that this isn't just about one person. You're a cog in the wheel.
Well, and kids today, they're so used to watching YouTube and content on TikTok where people actually create their own content and it is just a one-person show, or so they think. I mean, the real YouTubers, the ones who have 18 million followers, have a whole team.
Yes.
But I think that they often think that they can just get up and do something. I mean, we thought that too, but everything was so analog. So you couldn't just you weren't just going to film yourself. I mean, so I think that part of what's fascinating to me about sports is kids need to understand that there are literally hundreds of people behind that machine, not just in the entertainment component with the interviews and with the journalism part, but also in the stadium, there's thousands of people that make this all happen just for one game, let's say.
Thousands. But you make an interesting point because today's kids have access to so much technology. It's such an advantage, but it's also a disadvantage because now instead of one guy like me who has a crappy VHS tape filming myself like do a bit when I'm in high school, now you have millions of kids with phones in their pockets being like, yo, I'm at the Clippers game, and you can go viral for like a fight in the stand.
Right.
And you can go viral for anything. But if you're going to get into this business to go viral, it's not going to work. You need to have an authenticity to you that shows that you're passionate for the sports and for whatever you're covering, not just sports. If you're doing anything in journalism, really, you need to. I think colleges are going to look at the fact if you use this stuff to like apply that you have a real love for this and you're not just out there trying to gain clicks and likes and followers. So back when we were young, if you took a selfie with like a 35 millimeter camera, you were the cringiest dude around, you know, look at this vain bastard, you know, I remember doing it with like, hey guys, I look good, look at my hair. Now it's like,
if you don't do it,
right,
you're like a non-human.
You don't selfie, dude.
Yeah, you know, and I say it all too often with applicants, or like with kids I'm working with, like, let's start an Instagram account, let's do a TikTok for that, but that's your calling card, that's your portfolio, that's how people are going to find you. I mean, and in a lot of respects, it is cringe, but it's also really cool and accessible.
It is cringy, but it's what's working, and it's how, you know, I have a 19-year-old son. And he's very interested in sports, and a lot of his friends are very interested in sports, like a lot of teenage boys are at this time, especially because right now, with how Hollywood's sort of fluctuating between, you know, dying and hopefully survive or whatever's going on.
Hollywood's fluctuating.
I don't know what's happening. It's all going to your phones. But these, you know, one thing that's not going away right now are sports, and people need it. It's a way of life for, you know, billions of people across the world, and they realize this is pretty much an unbreakable industry right now. So if you don't have a TikTok channel, if you don't have an Instagram account, if you don't have a consistent amount of material that you're putting out, you're going to be behind someone who has that.
Right.
You know, and nowadays there are kids who have access to all this stuff, but do they have the motivation to go create all this stuff? Or are they going to get jumped by a guy who just has an iPhone and lives in a shack in Mississippi, but is passionate about Ole Miss football and is going to go out there and prove that he's got the desire and the drive to get where he wants to get, more than the kid who's like living in Beverly Hills who's like, oh yeah, I like the Lakers. You know,
it's a really good point.
It's like you all have the technology, but now it's like, who's going to work harder?
Right. And would you say that as far as sports broadcasting is concerned, having that desire to be on camera, the desire essentially be an actor, for all intents and purposes, that's what we're doing. It's the marriage of journalism and acting. Is that what you need to have? Do you need to have that bug?
I don't know if you need to have necessarily an acting bug, but you need to have a performance bug. You need to have the gall to think that people are going to want to watch you on camera, which nowadays seems like a lot of people have that, which took a lot when we were younger. To have the like cojones to go out there and put yourself on camera was very daunting.
Yeah.
Because you weren't sure.
A lot of work too.
A lot of work. How do I look? Are people going to appreciate my humor or my opinion or how I perform? It was very, you know, it's very anxiety inducing back then. Now it's just so easy to throw it out there and say, what do you guys think? I mean, we had to move. I mean, if you wanted to be in television, you had to move to Los Angeles. You had to develop a tape over 3 years, you know, to get any footage on yourself doing anything was like impossible. And if you got like a minute, you were like, yes, my reel is building. You know,
so true. Oh my God, it was so much work.
It was so much work. Now you can basically edit together your own reel in 2 seconds, which, again, is it going to stand out? Or is it just going to be like everyone else who has the same kind of reel?
Right.
So, yeah, you do need to have that little bit of that vanity that's like, I'm good enough to be on camera. People are going to want to watch me.
And you have to want to push yourself to keep working at it. So even when it's not good or you don't get the attention, you don't. Well, and that's where the acting thing comes in, because if you don't have that resilience, you're not going to last. One of my good friends, Christine, well, she goes by Christine Lazar. She's a reporter for CBS 2 News and KCAL. And she started out, you know, she went to Berkeley. She's a serious journalist. And her first job was in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. And she lived in someone's basement for like 2 years.
Applaud her.
And that's how she, I mean, and now she works in LA. I mean, to be in this market is what that takes. But I just think even if you're talking about sports, you have to be willing. Are you the guy in the garage who's reporting on Ole Miss?
Right.
And then, or are you the kid in Beverly Hills who, like, if you're passionate about the Lakers, that's great. Would you be willing to move to X random city,
Wellington, West Virginia,
local high school reporting?
Hey guys, Wellington, West Virginia's wrestling team today went 4-7 in their match against. I mean, it's when I graduated at USC. Now this is a crazy story. So we had a graduating journalism class of maybe like 20 something kids.
Wow, that's small.
It was small, and I think we were a part of our senior project was to put together our tape and submit it out. And
where would you submit it?
You would submit it to different news channels across the country. You know, you would have to submit a tape to somewhere in Dubuque, Iowa, for instance. But I think 2 people were offered jobs out of everybody. And one of them was in, I want to say Wellington, West Virginia. And this girl moved there and like moved into the basement of the Friends. And like, I don't know where she is now. Can't remember her name.
You really should, so that we can look her up right now.
I want to look her up. I can't remember.
What happened to you? If you're listening, tell us what happened.
Say hi. I didn't send out any job things. I was like, I don't even care. I'm like, I'm going to be an actor, you know, because I was that idiot who was like, well, whatever. College was fun. Now I'm just going to go get a sitcom and be, you know, be famous. And
Seinfeld.
So I kind of like, I put my journalism career on pause for a minute to try to pursue, you know, show business really. And I still, you know, I got luckily in both sides of it all. But I think 2 kids got offered jobs, and the other kid who one kid I'm still in touch with, he worked for E! And then Game Show Network for 30 years. You know, like we're all in the business, but it's, you know, it was very hard. And that was back then. So now I can't imagine the competition and how you would stand out, you know, with all the people out there trying to do this.
Right.
Unless you have that, like you said, that authenticity and that wherewithal to go out and push yourself and believe in it.
You have to have that presence, that on-camera presence.
That helps.
And you really have to have that thing that people want to watch. What's the guy that Mike watches every day? Steve, what's his face?
Stephen A. Smith.
Thank you.
Mike likes him?
He doesn't like him, but he watches him every day.
Oh, of course.
And I say to him, "What? He's so annoying. Turn it off."
If I want to talk about the New York Knickerbockers basketball team, I'm going to tell you right now, this team is in trouble. The Madison Square Garden should be burnt to the ground. Everybody in New York should be embarrassed about what is happening with Karl Anthony Towns and the New York City Basketball Association. Thank you very much.
Is he wrong?
I don't know.
I'm just saying in general. I feel like he's almost.
Jalen Brunson. I was hosting a TV show called Guinness World Records Gone Wild for True TV.
This sounds like a
2014, and I was cast as the color commentator. So I was sort of the funny guy. They wanted me to do the like jokes and mainly a lot of puns.
And you wrote them.
Yeah, I would write them, and you know, basic like script, and then I would throw in my jokes. And so they auditioned me with Stephen A. Smith. So I have there's somewhere out there, there's a video of me standing next to Stephen A. Smith in New York City, and he's got his monogram suit on, SAS on the sleeve, you know, and I'm sitting there and I'm improvising. He's, you know, he's a terrific sports personality, and he's a great for ESPN, and you know, as much love him or hate him, he's a watchable guy.
Yeah.
And we're doing this thing, and it was like smashing watermelons with your head. And so he's supposed to be doing the play-by-play, like, and he smashed another one. That's 5. That's 12. Is he going to break the record? And I'm sitting there doing dumb watermelon jokes, like he's getting his rind on or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. And like all of a sudden, like he just pauses because he doesn't have that, you know, he didn't have that like ability to be like, he goes, oh yeah, why is this? Nah, see, the TV went out. And I'm like, the TV is out, but we're going to keep going, Steven. He's like, no, and he like paused and walked off set. And I was like, that's not how it works. Like you got to be able to, you know, but he was so used to that in studio. Here's what happens. Here are your highlights, and you're an opinionated personality. Interesting story. Sidebar. Anyway.
How did Stephen A. Smith get to where he is?
He was a journalist for a long time. I think the Washington Post. I mean, he was a big time writer. And, you know, I mean, ESPN would look at journalists first. You know, occasionally, I mean, all these guys have journalism degrees, all the original Sports Center guys. I don't know what's going on there on ESPN now. Unfortunately, which this is my favorite channel of all time growing up, I don't watch it anymore. And kids don't really watch it.
Why don't you watch it anymore?
because I get everything on Instagram.
Right.
You know, I see Barstool, I see Overtime, I see, you know, any millions of sports, Instagram accounts that I follow that give me the same amount of highlights that I need. And now I can follow specific teams. Back in the day, if you wanted to see an Arizona basketball highlight, you had to wait till the end of SportsCenter to see 2 minutes. And you're like, yes, cool.
Right.
Now it's right there.
True.
So another way journalism, sports journalism, TV journalism has completely shifted into your phones. And why, you know, companies like Overtime and Sports Steady or whatever it is are doing very well because kids get their sports from that and not from traditional cable TV.
And that's one of the reasons why my kids know so much information.
Absolutely.
How does my 11-year-old know so much information about the 1984 Laker team? I'm like,
I blame your husband on that.
Well,
one.
But my husband is not, you know, he ingests so much information in such a short amount of time and memorizes all of it and can, you know, talk about the history of the players and what was going on at the time. And bizarre. I mean, we would have had to microfiche that business.
We would have.
Research in the reference section of the library, like how it's pretty incredible. So going back to students who want to go into this industry, so you still have to have the on-camera je ne sais quoi, like the thing that makes people want to watch you, even if you are on Barstool or you're on TikTok or whatever. Like if you're going to be one of those big guys though, or one of those big women on, there are a lot of women now, sports broadcasting.
Absolutely.
You really do have to be a compelling on-camera personality. So there's that marriage of those things. Tell us what happened when you graduated from USC. You wanted to be an actor. You get into that world. How do sports creep back in and kind of where the peppering of all of that? How does it all come together?
Yeah, so I graduated and I immediately got an agent. Your husband and I were writing scripts together. We were trying to do Adam Sandler kind of comedies. You know, we really had all these great ideas. And I was auditioning, getting tiny parts, you know, Chicago Hope, whatever. Nothing that would keep maybe enough to like go have a couple extra beers one night, but it was nothing like I wasn't getting rich or anything. And then I started doing a lot more sketch comedy, SNL kind of stuff. And I got into a group and we got really popular. It was a USC alumni sketch comedy group. It was called Another Showcase Showdown. And I did a character who was a sportscaster. So I sort of used my old sportscaster like persona that I was kind of doing and did this character about a guy who was a sportscaster by day, but when he went home for dinner at night with his family, he couldn't leave it in the booth. So he'd be like, honey, pass the mashed potatoes. Denied! She says no for the third night in a row. And Smith is going to the liquor cabinet for another scotch, right? So I'm doing this character, and it was really funny. His name was Steve Shotsky. And I one day see this thing on ESPN that says, did you miss your calling? You should audition to be an ESPN SportsCenter anchor in our new reality TV show called Dream Job, where we are looking for the next hidden talent in sportscasting. And I was like, well, that's fun. I'll do this Steve Shotsky character at the audition and I'll get on the blooper reel or something. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to get on the blooper reel so people go, look at this idiot. And at the time I had really long hair. You know, I was dressing like a 70s dirty cowboy. And I went in with this character. Open call, 20,000 people.
Right? Where was it?
This was, I missed the LA audition, so I had to go to the one in San Francisco. Luckily, my friend was having a baby shower up there, so my wife and I went up there, my girlfriend at the time, and I left the baby shower to go to this audition, much to everybody's dismay. They're like, don't leave, we're going to pop champagne. I'm like, I'll be right back. So I go to the audition in San Francisco, I do the bit, and the casting director goes, hey man, listen, you're really good. Why are you doing this voice? Do it as your own voice. So I'm like, all right. So I did it as my own voice and I walked out of there thinking that was it. On my way to the car, I get a call. They're like, get back in here. So I go back in. They're like, dude, you're amazing. Why are we not working with you? Your writing was great. You stood above and beyond everyone else in here. Can you get yourself to New York? And I was like, whoa, I was like, what just happened? Because I'm used to getting kicked out of a Warner Brothers for auditioning for that 70s show. They're like, next, And here I am. They're like, we come back. So I went in to this thing as a joke, and I ended up getting on the TV show in the final 10 contestants. We went to New York for like 2 months in 2004. And I was kind of like above, and I don't know, I had a great run on the show. Everyone there was super talented. But I had this long hair, and I was wearing like cowboy hats and leisure suits. And they were like, you're not a sportscaster. You're not a sports center personality. And I didn't win, but I was like the runner-up. A couple of us, me, this guy, Aaron Levine, who's still in Seattle doing sports, and Mike, who won, who's still on the Big Ten network. And he's been there for 20 years, and he's like the main guy. Great, right? But I was like, well, I have a sketch comedy group. I have a band in LA. Do I even want to move to New York or Bristol? But they kept giving me pilots, and I hosted Around the Horn. And after that, I hosted a show called Holla Back, which was like a TRL live in Times Square for sports highlights.
That's so
I was
fun.
like, I'm on my way, oh my God. But part of me was like, I have this other dream of still wanting to act and still wanting to write. So, but it changed my life. And after that, I was immediately cast on, Extreme Dodgeball. And then that led to Attack of the Show, which I did for 3 years, which I had sports comments on that. And I just like developed this sort of hosting persona. Mm-hmm. And that, is what I've been sort of doing for 20 years now. And it's been pretty awesome and very lucky.
Right.
But
you're really good at it.
Well, thank you. That was the break, was that Sports Center audition thing. I mean, you'll see me. I have like this mullet. I mean, I look disgusting. I look like Eddie from Stranger Things with the Hellfire Club on,
But if you think about it now, like, I feel like in sports, you could have had that personality.
This is the point. This is why I sort of dressed like this.
To me, it's like the Stephen A. Smith thing. Like, he's got his vibe.
Well, in a weird way, and I'm not saying that I'm some like mold breaker, but if you look at who's on camera now on network sports, you got Pat McAfee, who's doing stuff without sleeves.
Literally, that he shows up after Stephen A. Smith in my kitchen.
Right.
And I'm like, what's with this guy?
Cam Newton's wearing hats like this and scarves. Richard Sherman's got braids down to here. I had hair to here, and they were like, cut your hair if you want to be taken seriously. And I did. I trimmed it, but I was still like, what does it matter,
Right.
And I don't know, all these years later, I sort of wonder what would have happened if I would have cleaned it all up. But, I don't live in the past. But it's interesting to see what's happening now in sports media versus when I broke in back in 2004.
Well, we can thank social media for all that, too, because basically if you can have every Joe get on camera, every Joe isn't going to look like a clean cut,
right?
Whatever. So I want you to, you glossed over, though, a lot of the work that you've done in hosting, and you've hosted some of our favorite shows, like the History Channel. Like, give us your resume.
Well, Attack of the Show was a really great show. It was on G4. It was me and Olivia Munn, who you might know. Movie star Olivia Munn. Great cast. Kevin Pereira, one of the most talented TV hosts I've ever seen in my life. Chris Hardwick, Chris Gore. Anyway, a lot of talented people coming through there. And I was sort of their roving reporter. So I got to travel the world with a microphone in my hand for 3 years. I went to Japan to, I went everywhere. And basically interviewing people, doing things like, I'm at the Denver Beer Fest. I'm going to get drunk on camera. To like, oh, I'm in Japan. I'm in Macau and Hong Kong. This is the gambling capital of the world. So I'm doing stories from every single corner of the globe.
That's amazing.
It was a great gig. The only issue was I had a newborn. And I really didn't. I know, but when you're a new dad, you're like, I want to be home.
No, you don't. You don't want to be home. You are missing nothing. Nothing.
This was before, you could get on air, whatever it is. You had to Skype on like an old computer and like barely get a connection.
Totally.
Like, there was no
FaceTiming.
No FaceTiming.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I did that. Then I did shows on Discovery Channel. One of the better shows I did was called America's Secret Slang on the History Channel.
Oh, I like that one.
Which was, I went around the country and discovered, like, why do we say these slang words like water under the bridge or I fell off the wagon, and so I would go to these experts, these language experts in different parts of this country and be like, why did we call it a cakewalk? And then I'd learn about how in New Orleans that was like a dance and the best dancer won a cake. And so they called it a cakewalk. Now, like if you're playing in a sporting event and it's an easy win, it's a cakewalk, Those are the things that I found. I loved that show.
So good.
I loved it. We did technically shoot 3 seasons, but they combined 2 and 3 into 1 season. And then, that was before green screen. I mean, that was when you could actually travel for this stuff. Now they would shoot that all on probably a green screen. That's my guess.
Really?
I think so. I mean, I think I mean, who knows?
They wouldn't want you to go to the actual, you don't think they would pay for it?
It was just a budget thing, yeah.
Would they rather bring in the experts into the studio?
They would do that too. Like this third season we shot was mainly around Los Angeles. We would just go down to the park, Pan Pacific, and bring in the expert who knew all about the history of like Western slang, and then we would talk about.
But you weren't pretending like you
wagons and those kind of terms, But that was a great show. After that, I did the Guinness World Records show. I did a million pilots. Just a million pilots. And that's the other thing you got to realize if you're going to be in this business. Not every show you shoot's going to get made. You will shoot one and you will go home and you'll be like, it's happening. Here we go. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't get picked up. And then you're back to like, it didn't okay, what's next? And,
always what's next.
Always what's next. There's never an end game unless you're very lucky and you get to be like Tony Kornheiser or something and run a show for 35 years. So yeah, and then the last show I did was called Parking Lot Payday. It was on the Access TV, which is music channel. And I was going around concert parking lots asking fans about the band, asking trivia questions about like Metallica, like what's their third album called for $500?
Do they know?
Really cool. Game show kind of stuff.
That's fun.
Yeah. And some kids are just like, get stuff. And then if you watch the clip, the best clip of that is I interview these two like total Hesher dudes, like throwback 80s guys. And I'm like, all right, for $5, spell Metallica. And this one guy's like, METALLICE. And I'm like, what?
Metal Ice.
I'm like, you just spelled Metal Ice. So that was the last show. I mean, I did that. And then again, like CMT pilots, more history pilots, Food Network pilots. I did so many shows that just didn't get picked up. And that's just kind of what
that's what it is.
That's what it is. Anyway, a lot of TV.
In the sports broadcasting realm, would you say that universities should be preparing kids for this aspect? Because I think that acting part is the part that they're not used to rejection.
I would say 100%. And I think the one thing that got me so far on that ESPN show was that I had already dealt with 5 years of rejection in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. I had developed this thick skin of I can get rejected and not care anymore.
Right.
The first time I didn't get an audition that I really thought I was going to get, I was like crying. I came home, I hugged your husband, Mike. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And he's like, dude, you had one audition for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Sack up. Yes, I think universities if you're going to, teach kids to pursue this business, you need to teach them about the reality of failure and rejection, because that is the biggest part of growing as a human being or as a personality in this business. Yeah. So the acting side of it, the thick skin of it, like I said, taking an improv class, having a bad scene, only gets you, I mean, you were an actress too. Like it makes you stronger and it makes you,
having no one laugh, having no one show up.
Yes.
Yeah,
we've all been there.
You're also a musician too.
I do that. Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
This is a man of many talents. And one of the reasons why I like to talk to people like you and like a lot of the friends that I've had on so far, I want parents and kids to know that there are a lot of ways that you can build a career out of having a lot of talents. And so the traditional path didn't end up being the thing for you. You didn't necessarily want it. It didn't, whatever. You did lots of other things that satiated your passion for sports, your passion for writing, your passion for music. I mean, having the parking lot, I mean, that's hilarious to me because you are such a music buff, because you are a musician, and he's very talented, by the way. In those lulls, though, with no work, you're also very good at making things happen. YouTube shows, podcasts. Talk about that for a minute, because there's also a lot of, in that rejection mode, the lack of creativity, that stillness, that kind of like you can get very stale.
Great point. Yeah, I mean, when I wasn't really hitting it as an actor in my early 20s, I decided, I was like, well, I was always writing songs just for fun. And I was like, maybe I'll just make an album, see what happens. And I used to do this thing in the improv thing where I would freestyle rap as part of my like improv comedy bit on this. Again, it all stemmed from this sketch comedy show. And so I would do that. And then one day someone saw me and they're like, dude, you're really good. And I was like, no, I'm like, I'm a Jewish kid from Arizona. I'm not Eminem, really, but I was like really good on the mic with the freestyling.
Right.
And I actually got to record a 4-song demo. This is back when white boys weren't doing the hip hop as much, you know, and I got to go in the studio and do it. And then I decided, what if I combined it with like country music, country rap? There's something no one's ever done. So I started doing that. Formed a band, performed at a show in LA. This director sees me and he goes, "You're going to be in my movie." And he put me in this horror movie called Dead and Breakfast, which is like a cult movie from 2005. Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in it.
Wow.
Mr. Negan from Walking Dead. He was just a struggling actor. Oz Perkins, who directed a recent Stephen King movie, is in it. Ever Carradine, who's on Handmaid's Tale. And I'm playing this country rapping zombie. And it's bizarre because this movie comes out at the same time as the ESPN thing is happening. So people are going, who is this guy? Is he a 70s guy? Is he a ESPN announcer? Is he a country rapping zombie actor, comedy guy? You know, so suddenly everything was hitting at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, wow, I don't know what is going to happen here. I'm just going to keep pursuing it. And so what I realized was in the downtimes, you have to always create. And so the last couple of years have been really hard in Hollywood for anybody with the strikes and the fires. It's been a year to all my friends who lost homes. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I was like looking at this vertical thing that everyone's talking about. And I'm like, I'm going to create a vertical comedy. So I created my own series. It's called LA Dispensary. It's just something I decided to write. And I managed to get some money and I managed to shoot it. And it's really funny. And it's already kickstarted more work for me because people are like, oh, dude, that was really good. Do you want to help me work on this? I can pay you to work on that. And I'm like, again, the word I always used to say, this is my favorite quote in the world. It's on the back of my phone. Make your own luck.
Let me see.
Right?
So good.
Make your own luck because you can be lucky. There's a lot in this business that has to do with luck. But unless you're putting yourself out there in the place to get lucky, it ain't going to happen. So you can't sit around and wait for the phone to ring. Everyone knows this. Another thing I will preach is don't strive for perfection.
Yeah.
In anything.
That's a big, that's advice for anyone in anything, and especially in the college process.
Absolutely in the college process. And if you're applying and you want the perfect essay and the perfect all this, and you want it to just be perfect, college is going to be like, this is enough of this. I want to see someone taking a chance. You know, I've put out albums just because I'm like, oh, that's a funny idea. I'm going to put it out. I'm not even going to like mix it properly. But maybe the idea gets somewhere and someone goes, hey, you know, I really like that song. With some work, it could be good. I'm like, great. It happened to me. I put out a song, 15 years ago called Breakfast Beer. Stupid song.
I like one of those right now, actually.
Sure.
We'll crack those open
My
later.
friend who's in a comedy group in Canada called the Trailer Park Boys hears the song and he goes, I love that. I want to cover it. And I'm like, really? Next thing you know, he put it in the movie that came out last year with Billy Bob Thornton. I'm in the movie. We toured Europe. We played it every night. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, this was a dumb song I recorded on like a crappy Pro Tools microphone in 2012. And here I'm in Europe playing in Amsterdam. I mean, that's the weirdness of this business, and not just entertainment business, but journalism,
right?
Sports journalism, anything. If you have something you want to put out, put it out. Don't be afraid to fail. You know,
I will say that, especially if you're doing anything in social media too,
right?
Some of my most viral, successful videos, topics I've talked about have been no makeup, in my gym clothes, walking my dog, look like a disaster, crappy sound. I was just like, wanted to talk about something, so I did. And every time I find myself going, oh, I really should like put some makeup on, or I really should have a better lighting or better sound. I'm just reminding myself, get on camera, just do it. Just show up.
The hardest part about some of this stuff for me is setting up the cameras and the lights. I'm like, I don't want to spend time doing that. I'm not a gaffer.
Even just with a shitty ring light in my house, I'm like, why does this thing not hold my phone properly? And then half the time I just dump it on the floor and I'm like, in crappy light.
Same. I'm like, it's in a drawer.
Using a mic.
Trying to open the drawer. I'm like, gotta plug it in, have the wrong connector.
Always. I never have. I had a ring light that only had the USB connector, and half the time I couldn't find the plug thing that you have to plug it in to plug it into the wall. And I'm like, screw this, I can't. I just can't. I stopped using a mic on because once I got the iPhone 16, I'm like, I don't need a mic.
No.
Forget this. I used to have to, and then half the time the mics weren't charged. And then and then it would die halfway through the video. And then I would send it to Brandon, my producer, and he's like, you've no sound, babe. Like, redo. I'm like, fuck this. We got to remember, if you want to be in sports journalism, sports media, any of that stuff where you are showing up on camera, this is basically like acting. You have to know that this is not the percentage of people who actually make it, who actually get on those shows, it's probably it's probably less than the number of people who actually get a guest starring role on Pitt or whatever.
Right. So we'll talk maybe about my son for a second.
Yeah, I do want to talk about him.
He's 19. He has friends who he went to high school with who are now creating their own little sports networks in social media. And people who've asked me for advice of like, how do I get my son or my daughter into sports journalism or into the sports business and all PR marketing, whatever it is. I'm like, you got to start now. And so I show this guy's sort of page as an example. And this guy is now doing play-by-play for club hockey at the University of Tennessee. He's 19 years old. Club hockey, it's not an official sport at the school, but guess what this guy's doing? He is gaining experience, tape, he's learning on the fly. He doesn't have to worry about people watching and being like, this guy sucks. He's like, I can make mistakes on club hockey, no one cares. But by the time he's 25, I fully expect this guy to be like a junior reporter for like a huge university somewhere, and that's because he's doing it now.
Right.
He's not necessarily at Northwestern or Emory or Syracuse or even, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at ASU or USC, all these great schools. He's in the middle of the country doing this.
Mm-hmm. He's making his own luck. UTK is not, listen, the club sports are a great way to start that. Well, even I am like,
absolutely.
But if you're at a school like, let's say, Santa Clara, that has a pretty kick-ass club tennis team, club golf team, they don't have football. To do that there at if you're at a small school, like 7,500 undergrads, listen, to me, Tennessee's like, that would be pretty hot to do a club sport there. There's so many kids there. There's such a culture that's so dynamic with respect to sports there. But even if you're in a small school, like beach volleyball at LMU, their beach volleyball team is one of the best teams in the country. The women's team in particular. Who knows about that? Like, that's freaking cool. Go with them to Manhattan Beach for their tournaments. In fact, I was just at surf practice with my son in Huntington Beach a few months ago, and there was a huge women's beach volleyball, college beach volleyball tournament. And it was every college in Florida that you could ever imagine. South Florida State, Eastern, Western, North, South University, and UCLA, and USC. And I thought, this is a great place for a kid who wants to do sports journalism to get out there and start interviewing players and have their own TikTok account or their own Instagram. So
if you're not doing that, and I'll stress this to kids in high school.
Yep.
Kids I have a friend whose son he lived in LA, moved to Scottsdale, and he follows the AAU basketball circuit in high school. Yeah. Prep sports is massive. Mm-hmm. The amount of high school basketball teams that you're not going to your local school anymore. You're going to an AAU team and you're forming Sierra Canyon, for instance, in LA. So in Arizona right now, there's a huge influx of great college basketball players. He wants to be a videographer, and he took a video of this player, Koa Pete, who's now on Arizona, about 2 years ago, dunking from some outrageous free throw line, whatever it was. The thing went viral. And all of a sudden, this guy's got prep people going, hey, do you have any more video of this kid? Hey, we'll pay you for video for our content, to use your content. This kid's 17 years old. He's making money already, because he's out there following these AAU teams. So it's just like LMU beach volleyball, whatever, go do that. If you're doing club hockey in Tennessee, go follow that. Get yourself involved in these sports. Everyone wants to go do the NBA. Everyone wants to be Roxy Bernstein. Everyone wants to be, out there with Reggie Miller, but in reality, you're going to start doing D2 wrestling.
1,000%. You'd better be passionate about it. The AAU thing, and the club basketball, all that stuff. Those are star makers. Yeah. Really.
Yeah.
You have a sophomore in college. Having gone through this process, I have many questions for you. So, first of all, where is he at school? Talk to us about that.
So he goes to University of Washington in Seattle.
Huskies.
Go Huskies. And he's a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
We were shocked when he wanted to go there, but we also have my wife's brother lives there. We've been going there for Christmas since, he was a kid. So I think, he had a little taste of Seattle. Also, my wife's best friend, who's like an aunt to him, lives 7 minutes from the campus. So having that little sort of safety net helped. But I was a little shocked. I'm like, you're going from sunny LA to rainy Seattle.
Rainy, depressing. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's there. And, it was an interesting decision, but one that, another thing I'll talk about with parents who aren't sure if their kids should go out of state. I mean, you talk about it all the time on your podcast. Is it worth it financially? Is it worth it for this?
Right.
A lot of parents want their kids to just go and be the happiest they can be. And that's what I wanted. And what I realized was even if they're not 100% happy, the most important thing is that they're growing and they're learning to be out of their comfort zone and they're becoming an adult.
Right.
Learning that there's not going to be a plate of food on the kitchen every day at 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to live off taquitos from Trader Joe's.
I thought you were going to say tequila, and that's also probably part of it too.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Tequila and taquitos, the teas. So, he's there. Does he love it? He doesn't love it the way I thought he would love it. When I went to USC, I rolled in. I was like, oh my God, these are the most beautiful people in the country. I'm in California. This guy in my fraternity was on a TV show. Oh my God, Diane Cannon's dating my fraternity brother's dad. What's going on here? I met your husband. I'm like, wait, you grew up in the Valley? What? Like, because again, you have to remember when we grew up, Beverly Hills 90210 was the
Beverly Hills
show.
90210. Beverly Hills 90210, by the way, makes an appearance on this podcast.
Yes.
And we talk about it. We've now talked about it like 10 times.
I was going to say
different people.
Good. I'm so glad
it's
I'm
our
not alone.
age group, by the way. That's why.
I mean, I wanted to be Luke Perry. I wanted to be Jason Priestley. I was a Brandon with a Steve Rising.
Oh, I like that.
That was my horoscope.
Yeah, did somebody do your chart?
The Blaze, the West Beverly Blaze podcast. They had me on for my fandom. Anyway, when I got here, I was like, whoa, that guy had 2 lines on 3rd season, and he's in my fraternity. I mean, I was that nerd.
USC was very sexy. It is sexy. And everyone there is sexy. Girls are hot. Everyone's hot.
UW.
I don't think UW.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect. And when we went and visited him, it was very local, very much like Seattle, Washington kids from around the area. There's not the beach blonde kids playing beach volleyball in front of the sorority house. It's way different, which is great. And he's enjoying it. And he's a different kid than I am. And that's another thing I realized was he's not going to be the guy who's going to show up and just start partying and, chasing a dream that he knew he wanted when he was 16.
Right.
He's still figuring it out. And I think parents need to realize that it's not about your kid going there and just thriving immediately. There is a little bit of an adjustment period in college that, I didn't expect.
You mean that kids need to move through discomfort and learn some resilience and grit?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And what I realized after 1 year, he came back this summer and I'm like, this is a different kid. And everyone in our family is like, he's so awesome. He's talkative. He's open. He's handling his own business. He wants to do this. He's taking control of his life. He's worried about that, and I'm like, that's a far cry from the kid who graduated in 2024, just saying like, I just want to stay home and play video games all day.
Right.
Now he's motivated. He wants to get out and just wants to figure out his life.
That's amazing.
So, financially,
Does it make sense to send your kid to an expensive out-of-state program? Well, that's the question. Does it make sense?
If your kid needs to grow, I think it's a helpful way to get them to grow. A lot of kids in LA, and I know your podcast is watched all across the country and listened to, I think kids in LA get comfortable in LA. There is a sense of, why would I leave here? This is where everything is. I have a house. My parents are happy. We have
we have a pool. We've got great weather. We've got, why?
Why would I go anywhere? And I'm like, my mom, and I credit my mom for this, my Jewish mother, God bless Barbara. How are you, Barbara? Barbara would say to me and my sister and my brother, you're leaving Tucson. You're going out of state. It's the only way you can grow up because you can't stay here. Mm-hmm. All my friends went to University of Arizona. All my friends went to Northern Arizona, maybe NAU. But it took these guys till they were 22 or 23 to really go out and find out, which is fine. Everyone's got their own journey.
Right.
But for me, with my son, I knew he had to get out of the house because he was a COVID kid. Started freshman year COVID indoors.
Worst.
The worst. And they got used to it.
Damaging.
Went through puberty during COVID. Never had that high school experience.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, go have the college experience. And I didn't pay for private school in high school, luckily. So I was like, well, I can put together a little 529 and pay for some. So for me, it was worth it. For every parent, it's probably not.
Right.
But I think what I've seen now, and I don't think my son's going to ever listen or watch this, but his friends who did go away to school out of LA, he is so much closer to them when they come together over
really
winter
interesting,
break.
Right?
He hangs with the kids who went to Michigan State, San Diego State, Emerson. He has there's 4 of his friends who went out of state for school, maybe 5. There's 15 who are still here, and they're going to LACC, and they're doing their thing.
SMC and
SMC, which is great. That's what I get it.
That's what it's there for.
Right. And I totally get it. If you're lucky enough to be able to afford it, or if you're willing to take out the loans and you feel like your kid will benefit from it, yeah, it's worth it.
And every kid's different, and knowing what your kid needs is really, it's kind of like knowing when your kids are younger, knowing would your kid do really well in a giant public school? Does your kid need to be in a really small private school? That, like, everybody's different, every family's different, and the needs are different. But that I always say it's sort of like, somebody used to say, like, it's Yale or jail or something like that. Or basically like, well, you're going to pay for it now, or you're going to pay for it later. So if you know that that's what your kid needs, he's not going to be living in your basement until he's 29. You're not going to be supporting him. He's probably going to be getting out and getting a job, and he's going to have a sense of confidence and a sense of self and an awareness and an ability to take care of himself and all that stuff. So,
well, that's the most important thing. I don't know if necessarily what the job market's looking like, but I do know that having that sense of motivation now to not want to be pampered and sitting at home is what we got. And that to me was worth it all.
When he's grown up watching you continuously create.
Right.
And that's an incredible gift to have in your house, to see somebody who's always pushing, always hustling. That's
Marty Supreme, baby.
So true.
But less annoying.
Yeah.
Did you like that movie?
I only heard about it. I haven't even seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Yeah. No.
Did you like it?
Yeah. I didn't love it the way I thought I would love it.
How did you think you were going to love it? Really love it?
Well, my son loved it. Okay. He's like, Dad, this movie makes me want to hustle. I'm doing anything I can in my world to get everything done. I love it. Chalamet for the Oscar and all this. And I was like, great. So we saw it, and it's one of the Safdie brothers. So there's their characters. Like, did you like Uncut Gems? Did you see that movie?
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't sit through it.
But it was yeah, it kind of made me nauseous at times.
Anxiety. Yeah. I was like, God, stop messing up. That's how I felt in the Marty Supreme movie a little bit. I was like, stop. Like, why I hate this kid. I don't root for him. And then at the end, I talked about the movie for 3 days. So I'm like, well, that was a sign of a great movie. If you're still talking about it, I'm like, hell, it struck a nerve. That's art.
Zach, among your many talents, you are also a dance dad.
Yeah.
You get riser into college. Now you have an almost 16-year-old daughter. I got to know about this.
Well,
we've had a couple competitive dancers on the show. I have a niece, my 9-year-old niece will be performing in Pasadena all weekend.
I'll be there.
Stop it, will you?
Just kidding. It's interesting because you want your kids to find that thing, right? And my son's thing was basketball. Like, he loved basketball, playing basketball, club, high school basketball, whatever. My daughter's thing is somehow become competitive dance, and she got into it a couple years ago through a friend. I didn't expect her to last more than like a couple months. And now we're in year 2.
You have a lot of faith in her.
Yeah. I just didn't know. I didn't know if it would stick. And now she's like loving it. This is her life. So I've learned about this dance dad world. It's mainly a dance mom world, by the way. It is 90% dance moms.
Yeah. There was an actual show about it.
Of course. I've watched every episode. Abby Lee Miller, you horrible person.
She's the worst.
So my daughter got into this really cool local LA team called The Hype Dance Complex. Love the teachers. And she's been doing it. And I've suddenly become, we both have jobs. My wife and I both hustle all the time. And I've become a dance dad. And so I did a video, if you want to show that on YouTube. It's called How the F Did I Become a Dance Dad? And it's basically me at the national convention last year in Palm Springs, walking around with my camera doing a whole like, guys, I am here in Palm Springs. What is happening? You know,
I did Dance Dad commentary.
I did Dance
Color
Dad
commentary.
Did you got to go do your Long Beach or Loyola Marymount volleyball team? I'm doing Dance Dad commentary.
Oh my
That's
God,
what I was doing.
love
And that's
this.
one of my more popular videos of the last year. And especially because it went kind of viral in the dance mom community. It's very funny. You should watch it. But it's like, you know, you get to these things in Palm Springs and these kids are dressing up in these outfits and it's outrageous. And the mom's just sitting there at like 11 a.m. Chardonnay. And what time's Sienna's dance? 11. How about Southerly's? 2.
Southerly.
That's my daughter. So we were like sitting around and all of a sudden I'm the only guy. I'm like, hey, ladies, you know,
where's my Chardonnay?
Right. So I'm sitting there with red wine, like by the pool. I'm just like, and then I started making a video of all the other the dads who have t-shirts like, I'm a dance dad. It's a regular dad, only cooler. And I'm like, sweet shirt, bro. And then there's the guys with the t-shirts that say like, I'm not a dance dad, I'm a finance dad. And I'm just sitting there, you know, going,
my God,
what is happening? The amount of dedication some of these kids have to it is fantastic. And right. I don't know if dance is a way to get into college anymore. I don't know if there's dance scholarships, but
dance is an interesting world because there are actual D1 dance teams.
Yes.
In fact, I had someone on the podcast a few months ago who was on the UVA dance team.
Okay.
And also actually danced in Pasadena and was very good. And it is a hardcore college sport if you are on that Michigan's team's
that
crazy.
Level. Right.
She was saying like in an average game, they had to know 50 routines and they wouldn't know which ones they would go out with except for the cue from the band. So they had to have all of the routine, and there would be like a 2-second cue, and they'd launch into that exact routine. So what it taught her about prep, and she was the captain and whatever.
Right.
So can you get into college for dance? It can be an attractive component, but to your point, I actually had a client that I did a consultation with a few weeks ago whose daughter's very, 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 very intense about dance, and the mom's like, I mean, do we keep doing like? We're asking you, like, is this a thing? Like, do we?
Right.
So I asked the daughter. I said, "Do you love it?" She said, "I love it." I said, "Do you really love it?" She goes, "I love it." I said, "Does the good outweigh the bad?" She goes, "Absolutely. Like, I would not want to spend my time doing anything else." So I turned to the parents and I said, "It's the dedication, the time management skills, the ability to balance. These are things that make you a better parent, a better employee, a better roommate, all the things. These girls have it down."
I could not agree more. At first I was skeptical. Now I realize it's balance, it's dedication, it's learning something, it's a skill, it's camaraderie. All her best friends are in this group.
Yep.
You know, and it's fun.
And you're having fun as long as you have your flask of blank.
Yeah.
With you.
Exactly. I have a bottle of red wine.
You should get those ladies to do like a flash mob with you.
I know, that'd be funny.
Yeah. Next video.
You know, a lot of the girls, this is ridiculous, but I'm sure any of your teenage boys who might watch this or listen, every year there's like these sorority dance recruitment videos that come out.
Yeah.
That's where you end up that's where my daughter will be in 2 years dancing.
Yeah, and you know what? She'll be at Bama Rush.
She'll be at
Bama Rush.
Bama Pi-Fi has entered the chat.
And then she'll be the girl in the front. Bama Pi-Fi has entered the chat. And then everybody will be behind her.
Cartwheel, and then everyone will be dancing around. A dad can dream.
That's your t-shirt. A dad can dream. Zach, this has been a blast. You guys are going to be seeing and hearing more from Zach. Zach has entered the chat.
Yes.
It's not leaving quite yet.
A Zach can dream.
We're going to close out Dreamy Zach with our Admit It segment. This is going to cause you to reflect, possibly regret, and think ahead. Okay. Admit it, Zach. Would you have been better off cutting your hair?
Ooh.
For ESPN Dream Jobs?
Oof. Huh. No.
I thought you were going to say no.
No.
And I agree with you.
Yeah, I think I would have ended up maybe getting some sort of smaller job on the network and living in Bristol, Connecticut and raising my kid out there and giving up on music and comedy and all the other things that I do.
And then you would be a finance dad.
I'd have a little tech bro vest on.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Eating at Applebee's.
That actually hurts my soul. Ooh, okay. Admit it. Do you think that your son would have been better off going to a different school?
Well, yes and no. I think if he had gotten into any other schools that he wanted to go to.
UW is not easy to get into, by the way.
Well, that's what's crazy is that it's such a great school and it's so hard to get into academically. And a lot of kids in Washington can't get in.
Yeah.
But did he get into UCSB? No. UCLA? No. USC? No. UCSD? No. None of the UC schools. San Diego State? No. You know, the California college world is so completely broken.
It's the worst.
It's, as you know. And so if anything, I think just for his, maybe enjoyment of like social activities and being a little more motivated to do things. Yes, he would have been better off at like maybe a school with better weather or more, things to do around him. But again, I do love the fact that he went somewhere that challenged him and made him who he is now.
Different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And getting out of your comfort zone, which is something you do pretty much every day. Well, you're in your comfort zone, but you're always pushing yourself to get out of your comfort zone. And I think that that's what we want our kids to be able to do. Even though it's distressing for us, it's also important for them.
Yes.
Admit it, Zach Selwyn. If you had a second career, what would it have been or be? Totally differently.
I have realized that I am pretty much an entertainer at heart. I am a creator. I'm a creative person. It makes me the happiest when I'm creating. I have taken certain jobs for convenience mainly, but they're always in the creative field.
Mm-hmm.
So the only other option is that, I would teach or something. I'd have to teach or,
You would have to teach.
I would have to teach. I don't know what else I could do.
What would you teach?
Performance, like stuff like, writing, creating. I don't know. I don't think there's like really a classroom mentality in the, but I don't know. I honestly don't know what I'm not alone in this in LA, especially. There's a lot of people who have done really well in their careers and we get to a certain age and we're like, well, that career doesn't exist anymore. Right. Now what?
Right.
But yeah, the performance aspect that I knew when I was like 15 years old, I'm like, I'm going to pursue that. The things that changed in my life were I never expected to have a music career. That's been more successful than I've ever imagined. I always was a writer, but I never thought I'd write screenplays until I met Mike. And I give your husband total credit for bringing me into that world because I was writing comedy short stories for the USC Trojan and for 28th Street Magazine, which was like the comedy magazine on campus. Again, do everything.
Yeah.
And Mike would read my stories. He's like, dude, you're a funny writer. Have you ever tried to write a screenplay? And I'm like, no, what's that? I thought people did that somewhere else. He's like, no, let me teach you about act structure and comedy and let's watch Tommy Boy 400 times and learn how it works. And all of a sudden I was like, we could do this. And to this day, I've now optioned screenplays. I've written for television. Like you never know.
Right.
So things that I thought would just hit when I was 21, like a lot of kids think, don't be afraid to take on the next challenge.
You never know where it's going to take you.
You never know.
Admit it. Would you come back on the podcast?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Are you paying next time?
End scene. Thanks for tuning in to Admit It with Alexis White. If you're working on your college applications and want guidance every step of the way, visit alexiscollegeexpert.com to find resources and support tailored for you. For even more tips, stories, and college insights, make sure to follow me on TikTok and Instagram @collegeexpert. Until next time, good luck. And remember, you don't have to do this alone.